What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Comically Boston episode 122, but the first episode of 2024. Let's get it. We're going to try and do a podcast every single Monday all year, 52 Mondays in a row. Let's get it. Let's start with the news, shall we? Happy New Year's. I hope you guys had a safe night. Nobody drove home drunk. Nobody got in trouble. Nobody got arrested. Nobody got in any fights. I hope you all partied, had a great time, went to bed, woke up this morning, and now we're on to a bigger and better year. 2023 is in the past. We're moving forward. Now, my Boston Celtics, if you guys have been around, you know I like to start with the sports. They had a big week. Last Saturday, we faced the Clippers. We picked up a dub. Then Christmas Day, we faced the Lakers. We picked up a dub. Porzingis had a great game. I like the red. Normally, we're just green team with white sleeve. They used red sleeves for Christmas and red shoes on Christmas. It looked really good. I actually liked the combination between the green and the red quite a bit. But Porzingis on Christmas Day had 28, 11, 2 assists, 2 blocks, and a steal. That boy had been, when he's on the court, he's playing well, and when he's off the court, he's making teammates happy and joking around and shoving and pushing, and it's just great. It's awesome. At the time, the Pistons had 27 losses. We beat them, extend their losing streak to 28 games. Friday night versus the Raptors, no Jason Tatum, no Porzingis, no Al, no problem. Jaylen Brown gets it done. We beat them 120-118 in a close game. Closer than I would have liked, but Jaylen Brown's been just dunking all over people. Look at this photo. He looks huge. If you've seen any of the years Jaylen Brown has played for this team, he's always looked in shape and strong. But this year, he looks like he's on steroids. And he's not. You just know he's been working out because of the way he's been jumping, the way he's been running, the way he's been slamming the ball. He just been dunking on everyone this year. And so much so that he might be in the talks to do the All-Star Dunk Contest game, which we haven't had a Celtic in there in a long, long time. So it would be cool to see that. But recent reports and news over the last couple weeks that I've been meaning to talk about. The Wolverine video game had a ton of leaks online, and Insomniac had to address it and be like, hey, these are very, very early in development stuff. They were more concerned about the information about their workers that were leaked. That just isn't cool, you know? Like, even leaking the game isn't cool. Because then now there's a bunch of morons on Twitter like, this game looks terrible. It's like 4 years in pre-production, and they're like, this is an awful game, looks terrible, they're making it look awful. And it's like, no, they're not. It's just, it's the bare bones of what it could be. And if anyone that actually knows how video games work and development and shit, it doesn't look polished and great at the start. That's like the end stuff. What they're trying to do right now is get the mechanics down and shit, and get the gameplay and get the story down, and figure out the in-between stuff. How are you going to get from this part of the story to that part of the story type of deal? But from what I saw, I thought it looked awesome. But just from that, you know, it made me think of all the games that have been told are being released that are Marvel games. Spider-Man 2 already came out last year. That was pretty awesome. But we know that there's an Iron Man game in the works. We know that the Wolverine game is in the works. There is a Captain America and Black Panther Untitled game where they're like back in the past and you're playing as Steve Rogers in the past, and then like King T'Chaka Black Panther, you know. So that I'm still interested in. I haven't heard much about that. There's a separate Black Panther Untitled game that just a solo Black Panther game that we've been told, and then a trailer just recently got released for a Blade game, and that little teaser trailer wasn't much, but it got me enough that I was like, give me Blade. I thought it was a trailer for the Blade game. I thought it was a trailer for the Blade movie. I was like, what the hell, Mahershala Ali? I didn't know they were shooting yet. but comment below, what are your most anticipated movies of 2024? What are you looking forward to the most? But over 9 days, 9 episodes of What If Season 2. If you haven't seen it yet, this is your point to step off. Have a good one. Go watch What If Season 2 and come back and check out my thoughts on it. But if you have seen What If Season 2, we're going to recap the season and talk about my favorite episodes. Episode 1 was What If Nebula joined the Nova Corps. I really like this episode. It might be just like fresh in my head because it was the first episode. But between season 1 and season 1 we got this blonde hair Nebula, and then now season 2 we get this lone wolf Nova Corps Nebula, and she's like hunting, she's like a spy, she's like hunting down the killer of Yondu, and Yondu was like just dead in the street. It's all like black, dark stuff. It was like a Blade Runner type of vibe. It's a great episode. I found it very interesting. She picks up Yondu's arrow. It glows green. It shows her this image, but really, like, the image is just of like the silhouette shot of just her, and the only light we see, like, it's all dark, and we just see these orange lights on her chest. A couple blinking lights in the background. The like cop mobile that she's in is very Blade Runner inspired. I watched this and literally wanted to go watch Blade Runner right afterwards. So maybe I will. Maybe that's still on the list. But what I loved the most about this episode was rock, paper, scissors in the boss man himself, Howard the Duck. And they kind of have like this pointing up shot of like this Avengers crew. And it's Nebula with the Yondu fin, Meek, Korg, and Groot that make up rock, paper, scissors as a group, and then Howard the Duck, which is like a big baller, high roller type of dude, which cracks me up so hard. But I love this little team up. Like, this is what I love about What If the most, is that you get these little team up moments between these characters. And let's be real, that Nebula with the friggin' arrow is unreal. She's such a beast, and I really want to see that character interact with the Nebula we know. Like, you know what I'm saying? Episode 2, What If Peter Quill Attacked the 80s Avengers? That's not the real title of the episode, but that's what it damn near should be. I think the episode title is Episode 2, What If Peter Quill Attacked Earth's Mightiest Heroes, or something like that. Some of these titles are really mouthy and wordy, but you're sitting there like, come on, man. I think we could have found a better title for it. But Peter Quill really isn't the bad guy, and Ego is the bad guy here, and really Yondu, because this whole episode is like, what if Yondu did drop off Peter, because he didn't in the movies, and that's why he ends up being a Ravager and shit and ends up with Yondu. But he did drop him off to Ego in this universe, and Ego got to this celestial child early and was able to turn him into like this bad thing. So he sent Peter to all these universes destroying shit, but now he's to Earth, and Peter just wants to get back to Missouri. So then he meets up with Hope, and she's like young in this, but it's like still the 80s. So we get this badass Avengers lineup with Peggy Carter as like in the 80s, Bill Foster. We got King T'Chaka, Marvel from Captain Marvel, obviously young Peter Quill. We got Goose in there, a young Hope Van Dyne, Hank Pym Ant-Man instead of Scott Lang. We got Howard Stark, Tony's dad. Still Thor Odinson, because he is thousands of years old. And then we get Bill Foster as Goliath. So we have Ant-Man and then Goliath, because our Ant-Man does Giant Man and Small Man. But back then it was Ant-Man and then Goliath, the guy that just grew big. So I like this episode. I did. King T'Chaka from, the one that played the younger version in Black Panther, he's back to voice King T'Chaka. So I'm cool with that. That was awesome. But the 80s lineup of Avengers is pretty cool. But this episode was pretty great with, like, they go to the amusement park, the lights and stuff. Just how the whole season looked visually was pretty awesome. But seeing, like, Thor interact with a Winter Soldier, Bucky, and then by the end of the episode, they kind of, like, redeem Bucky in this universe. So he's kind of, like, back to Bucky Barnes and not necessarily just the Winter Soldier anymore. But the relationship between Peter Quill and Hope was really cute, like, and unexpected, but also kind of like worked a lot. I was really here for it. Episode 3 was the Christmas episode. What if Happy Hogan saves Christmas? I named this episode What If Happy Hulks Hogan, because Happy Hogan becomes the Freak, and it happens later in the season too, which I was shocked about. The Christmas episode was pretty awesome. We get like an Avengers Ultron side shot where they're like jumping in slow motion, and it's almost the same shot but just slightly different. They got a little different outfits on. Pretty sure that's Cap there with a Santa hat on. But I love that, Happy Hogan is like the one that has to end up saving the day. I love that Hammer was the villain, and it's kind of like a Die Hard spoof. This episode made me watch Die Hard, and I'm very glad it did because it was awesome. Happy Hogan's crawling through the vents like John McClane in Die Hard, but he finally hulks out, and when he hulked out in this purple freak version of the Hulk, I was kind of scared at first. I was like, damn. But this is Tony's Iron Man Legion bots turning like bad, almost like Avengers Ultron, and then they have to like take him out. But happy as the freak Hogan says, it's Christmas, Hammer. Goodwill towards men. You know, like he saves the bad guy even though he threw him out the window. That was actually the Christmas Eve episode. Christmas Day's episode was what if Tony Stark crashed into the Grand Master, but what it should have been named is what if Tony Stark didn't make it back. So in Avengers 1, he flies the nuke through the portal, and then he makes it just back through the portal. So this what if is what if the portal closed before he could make it back, and Tony gets stuck in space. So he ends up on Sakaar, he ends up racing, almost like a Mad Max style of thing. But it's pretty awesome. The one part that I loved the most from this episode was the car changing into the Sakaaran Hulkbuster armor. But he like jumps up in the sky and it like almost Autobots transform into like a race car. And then he lands in it and he takes off. Uses his arc reactor as a boost. Beats the Grand Master. But this whole episode was kind of like the one that was supposed to be here last year's. Like this was supposed to be a season 1 episode and they end up moving it to season 2. But now I love that we've gotten Tony Stark and Nebula in Endgame. So he's gotten one daughter of Thanos, and then he's got now the other daughter of Thanos and Gamora, and him and Gamora hanging out in this episode. But they're not really friends at the beginning. They both get the little shock things that Thor did in Thor Ragnarok on their necks. They're on the ground spazzing out, and you know, that's no fun. But you see that thing still on her neck here, but she's forced to race in this race as Gamora. Gamora's voice actress is very, very not Zoe Saldana, and that voice really kind of took me out of this episode, so this is why this is towards the bottom of my list. But Tony Stark was still pretty awesome in this. I will say Jeff Goldblum back as the Grand Master was really funny in this. And Topaz, his little right-hand woman, is so funny. It really is. Like, you can't get enough of her. She's just great. But I love that that he was trying to cheat and Tony comes back and beats him in his little race car pod, whatever. Valkyrie's in this too. Tessa Thompson, love to see that. She's back. I will say I do really like Tony's Sakaaran armor. The Lego set for this came out last year, and I built it, and then because I didn't know this episode, I had no like knowledge of this character, I just was like, I don't know what this is, and I put it away. Now that this episode's come out, I almost want to take it out again because it's pretty badass looking Sakaaran tech, and it also turns from a suit into a car just like the show, so I don't know, maybe I'll have to bust that set back out. On to episode 5. What if Captain Carter fought the Hydra Stomper, aka Skinny Steve? So this is her universe. The last time we saw her and the Scarlet Witch, she sliced her in half, and then at the end of this episode, she portals her into a different world and says she will save our world. So what is the deal? But at the beginning of this episode, we get like an Avengers lineup, team up, like Avengers 1, but it's with Captain Carter instead of Steve Rogers as Captain America, and we still have Hawkeye, we still have Black Widow, we still have Iron Man, we don't have a Hulk, but we have Thor, Captain Carter, and then now we have a Ant-Woman Wasp in this lineup, and not a Scott Lang. And I find that, you know, an interesting addition that we add her, and you know, like you could have just had the original lineup with Peggy, but they decided to change the Hulk into the Wasp. Interesting. Either way, the 1602 tease at the end of this episode with the Nick Fury with the mustache and the Wanda Merlin they're calling her from 1602. She looks pretty great. Every rendition of Wanda I think I love, but this episode wasn't my favorite one. I mean, Hydra Steve isn't really my cup of tea, but Captain Carter and Black Widow's relationship in this, Captain Carter is still pretty great. I did like that they got Sebastian Stan back to do the Winter Soldier stuff, but now he's also a older Sebastian Stan, and he's like the Secretary of State, so where like he was in the military this whole time. He never became the Winter Soldier. So, you know, it's good to see a universe where he ends up being a good guy. But Captain Carter and Black Widow, let's be real, they're great. I hope they fall in love. You know, we've had a lot of Steve in Peg. Let's get a little Nat in Peg, huh? Episode 6 came out Wednesday, the 27th. What if Kahhori, she says, but spelled Kahhori, reshaped the world? But Kahhori's episode was super interesting because this is a brand new character to the Marvel Universe. No comics, no movies, no shows before this. This is the first time we're seeing the character, and I thought it was a perfect way to introduce this character. Her whole deal and her whole powers comes from Odin fighting Surtur in Ragnarok, way before, like, Thor Ragnarok, right? Like, Odin fought him first and beat him, and then that's why Thor fights him later and causes Ragnarok. So this is what if Odin lost originally, and the Tesseract got shattered and thrown across the universe and landed with a Native American tribe with Kahhori, and she ends up getting powers from diving in a lake, and she's really badass. But she's pretty much Captain Marvel when she got infused with the Tesseract powers. Pretty much the same thing, a little different visually, but she glows blue, and she's pretty great. The whole shit with her flipping the bison over. She's got super speed that almost looks like Quicksilver. But at the end, she like destroys these ships, and she's like talks her people into walking through the portal and protecting her people. I really liked this Kahhori episode, and I love that they leaned into it. The whole thing was in subtitles with their native language, and you know, I'm okay with reading as long as it feels like it's not forced, and it's like okay. And they weren't jumping back and forth, so like the whole episode she was in her native tongue and we were reading subtitles. That's cool. But then later in the later season, she's speaking English, and that's fine, you know, like that's cool too. Like one or the other, you know, like if she can speak both, that's fine. But you can't be like subtitles and then she's speaking English, and then they go back to subtitles in the same sentence, you know, like that would be weird. But overall, that episode was pretty great. That's one of my favorite ones. At the very end of this episode, so the episode before, Wanda came in and got Captain Carter. So the end of this episode, Stephen Strange Supreme comes in and gets Kahhori at the end of this episode. So we'll find out what happens in the next couple episodes. But the next episode is episode 7, came out Thursday. What if Hela got banished to Earth and found the 10 rings? That's not the full title. The title, I think, is What If Hela Found the 10 Rings. But she gets banished to Earth, much like Thor 1, where Thor got banished to Earth. And Odin whispers to the hammer, "He who should be worthy will possess the power of Thor," and throws the hammer back down to Earth, and it lands, and he can't pull it up. It's raining, he's screaming. The exact same thing happens to Hela, but with her crown. But when she shows up, she doesn't find S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury, and Coulson. I almost forgot his name. How could I do that? Poor Coulson. But Hela walks up and finds Wenwu in the 10 rings. Not Shang-Chi, Wenwu, because he's a very old man, you forget. He was around for thousands of years. Yeah, like, so in the last episode I was talking about Odin lost to Surtur, and the Tesseract got thrown to the planet. It parallels almost exactly like how Hela's looking up at Surtur and he plunges the dagger down into Earth, into the Asgard, and blows it up. You see like almost a side by side, except Odin is holding the Tesseract and he plunges the sword down and he hits the Tesseract and still kind of blows up Asgard, but the Tesseract gets sent to another planet. But that whole Hela episode was pretty awesome. I think this next episode was maybe my favorite, if it's not the finale. Episode 8 came out Friday, is the What If the Avengers Assembled in 1602. The 1602 episode might as well have been called What If Captain Rogers is Rogers Hood, as in Robin Hood. But 1602 was such a great... It is a great comic book run by Neil Gaiman with the Marvel Comics, and I've yet to read it, but I've heard great things about it. Wanda's character in this brought in Captain Carter. I really want this Captain Carter to meet Endgame Steve with that wielded Mjolnir and shit, but from the finale, this Captain Carter is way cooler than that guy, but we'll get to it. But this Captain Carter gets a moment with another Steve Rogers in a different universe. And he's like, Peg, will you tell me about your Steve? And she's like, no, I don't think I will. The same way Steve Rogers in Endgame said to Sam Wilson, will you tell me about her? No, I don't think I will. You know, like, it was a beautiful, I love these two, like, as a love duo. But I love that Captain America is Robin Hood in this, and his band of merry men is Bucky with like a little mustache and a goatee. You got Ant-Man, Paul Rudd, Scott Lang. So it was really good to see all that stuff together. It's really crazy to see the renditions of Wanda. We've gotten now the Scarlet Witch Wanda, which is our Wanda, you know, the one from WandaVision. We've gotten Wanda Zombie Wanda from season 1 of What If. We've gotten Multiverse of Madness Wanda from 838, the one that she dreamwalked into. And now we've gotten Wanda Merlin, they're calling her, which is this Wanda sorceress witch from 1602, which is very interesting. But the whole premise of this episode is that they're trying to find a guy that was from the future that got thrown to the past, and Peggy thinks she's the only one from the future here. But what she does find out is that Steve Rogers she met in the beginning, that is Robin Hood and this 1602, he is from the future and he is the Forerunner. So and how that happened was, it was in Infinity War, and they cut back to Infinity War where Cap has the shields on his arms and he's in Wakanda and he's fighting Thanos, and one of his punches hits the gauntlet and hit the time stone and sent him back in time and reality into a different reality, into 1602. So he ends up, you know, they end up casting the spell to find out who it is, and they'll glow green. Or no, they end up using Tony Stark's technology to figure out who it is, and he starts glowing green. He's like, Peg, it's me. I was the one the whole time, you know, type of deal. And then, you know, we get a shot of Loki protecting Scarlet Witch, Elizabeth Olsen, which is Loki, Tom Hiddleston, and Elizabeth Olsen voicing the characters, so I really love that. I would love to see these two characters in live action together as well, especially after Loki season 2. But Loki in this is so funny. It starts out this episode, Loki's doing Shakespeare, he's holding like a skull, and then later in the episode, someone says to Thor, "You're more of a prima donna than Loki," and he's like, "Oh, bless," you know, like, so Loki gets to be extra gay in this universe. I kind of love that. It's just funny. But the finale of this season, what if Stephen Strange Supreme intervene? Doctor Strange Supreme intervene. That's a good title for this one, because he intervenes, and I thought the whole time he was intervening to help. No, he was intervening, and that's the problem. Captain Carter has to come in and fix this goddamn problem, and it's her. In the Kahhori episode, we saw Kahhori get taken by, or Strange come to Kahhori at the end of her episode, so we're trying to figure out what happened there. We already found out why Captain Carter got brought to 1602. She wasn't like a villain or anything there. So what's really happening is Doctor Strange tried to take Kahhori and trap her in one of his little orbs, and he's making like a collection almost of superpowered individuals that can either end planets or be used to help end planets or whatever. But Captain Carter just breaks everyone out, and you see so many Easter eggs in this part, and it would be impossible to name. But seeing, you know, at one point, it's Strange versus Captain Carter and Kahhori, and, you know, every other person that was captured starts throwing their weapons so that they can use it. So Captain Carter ends up with the Ultron suit that Killmonger had in the last season finale, and gets all the Infinity Stones. So she's now wielding all the Infinity Stones. She's got her shield. She's got a Odin sword that was like a Hulk Thor sword. She's got Hela's horns. Kahhori's got the 10 rings from Wenwu and has Mjolnir. Oh, so just the team up between the two of them is so badass. So badass. It really is. And I can't get enough of it, really. You know, seeing the crossovers in this episode between Zombie Wanda, you get Hela with her original crown, the Goddess of Death. You get Kahhori catching Captain Carter's shield, because at first Strange convinces Captain Carter that Kahhori's a bad guy, but then Kahhori tells her what's really going on, so, you know, at least she doesn't get caught as, hey, I'm the bad guy. No. Kahhori was good shit. But Kahhori starts portaling people back to their universe. Like, Kahhori's super powerful, and I love how powerful she is. I really want to see this character in live action. But the final fight between Doctor Strange, Kahhori, and Captain Carter, you know, all these people start getting let loose. We see a Loki that's a cowboy gunslinging Loki. That was cool. I like that. And we also see, like, this, you know, they use the duplication casting, almost like an Infinity War, where Doctor Strange casts a bunch of himself, and then Thanos turns them into butterflies, type of deal, or the other way around, whatever. But so he duplicates himself. Then Captain Carter uses the Reality Stone, duplicates herself. So then it's, you know, the two of them sending blasts towards Doctor Strange, and and the whole fight is badass. And Doctor Strange starts like turning into a monster, almost like that episode from season 1, and he's sitting there and he's like losing it, and he's like, my grief is too strong, I have to get my Christine back. And that's like his whole goal, is he's still thinking about this Christine and still has to get her back. And you really feel bad for this Doctor Strange, but he ends up getting defeated by Captain Carter and Kahhori, and then by the end of the episode she has to go back to her universe, and the Watcher and her are sitting there on a bridge, which is cute. And we see that Doctor Strange sacrificed himself so that his universe could live, and he's not in it, but Christine does get to live in the universe. So, you know, at the end of that story, Doctor Strange Supreme isn't all that bad a guy. He's gone, I think, but his universe lived on, and it didn't die with him and Christine like it did in last season. So Captain Carter and the Watcher watch this on the bridge, and then Captain Carter looks over to him and goes, maybe we take the long route home, see the sights, see the views, you know what I'm saying? And he goes, oh, I got a story to tell you. And what does he bring her to but Yggdrasil, the end of Loki season 2 that was just a couple weeks or months ago, and where Loki was at the end of time as the new god of stories, holding all the timelines together. Captain Carter and the Watcher are looking at Yggdrasil, the world tree, and maybe that little light on in the middle of the tree is Loki sitting there. He's leaving the porch light on for us to come home. I love that, and hopefully this means that it's connected, and maybe season 3 we'll see Loki, God of Stories, from the end of Loki season 2 in What If season 3. There was also a trailer released for What If season 3 recently that had Bucky and Red Guardian in it, and Bill Foster, Goliath. It looked interesting, and it said coming soon, so I don't know if that was a mistake or not by Marvel, but we could have What If season 3 coming earlier than we think. But comment below, what is your favorite episode of What If? If I had to choose one episode this season that was my favorite, I don't know, the finale was pretty great. 1602 I thought was pretty great. Nebula's episode I really liked. The Christmas episode was fun. Watching this, though, day by day and having a new episode every day was kind of fun. I originally didn't love the release date. I was unable to do this day by day, like that sense, like making a video per episode would have been more fun, and being able to talk with you guys and everyone every week about every episode is fun, but then you have to wait a week between episodes, and then it's 9 weeks for 9 episodes. 9 days for 9 episodes? Not so bad, really. But this is my full recap of What If Season 2. I hope you enjoyed it, and this is a little longer of an episode, but hey, Happy New Year. I hope you guys watched this episode, and I hope you guys loved What If Season 2, and we got Echo coming out right around the corner, so we'll be talking about that January. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you beautiful people in the next video.